The corridors of the hospital smelled faintly of disinfectant and coffee. Under the harsh fluorescent lights, Mark moved as fast as his legs would carry him, heart pounding, hands trembling. He had just received the call every parent prays for. His daughter had woken up. For a month, Julia had lain motionless, suspended between life and death. Every day he sat by her bed whispering the same words, "I'm here, sweetheart. I'm not leaving," though she never stirred. But today, everything had changed. The doctor had called an hour ago. "She's awake." Now, as he burst through the hospital door and into her room, the world around him seemed to fade. She was sitting upright, eyes open alive. Tears burned behind his eyes. "Julia," he whispered, stepping closer, his voice cracking with joy. But before he could reach her, she looked at him and froze. Her pupils widened in alarm, her face drained of color. When she finally spoke, her voice was trembling, yet sharp as a blade. You can't be here." Mark stopped mid-step. For a moment he thought he'd misheard. "What?" Her eyes darted toward the hallway, filled with panic. "Please, Dad. You need to leave. Now." Confusion washed over him like cold water. He had imagined this moment so many times, her waking up, smiling, crying, embracing him. But not this. Not fear. Not rejection. "Julia," he said softly, "what's going on? It's me." She shook her head, clutching her blanket like a shield. "You're in danger," she whispered. Her words sent a chill down his spine. He glanced at the doctor standing nearby, a young woman in a white coat, watching quietly as she finished her notes. Seeing the look on his face, she stepped closer. "She just woke up," the doctor explained gently. "It's not unusual for patients to be disoriented after a coma. Sometimes, memories mix with dreams. Give her a moment." Mark nodded numbly, though something in Julia's eyes told him this wasn't confusion. This was terror. When the doctor excused herself, leaving them alone, the room fell silent except for the steady rhythm of the heart monitor. Mark approached slowly. "Julia," he said again, "talk to me. What are you afraid of?" Her breathing quickened. Her eyes darted toward the door. "He's coming," she whispered. Mark frowned. "Who's coming?" Before she could answer, footsteps echoed faintly down the hall, slow, deliberate, getting closer. Julia's entire body went rigid. "Dad, please," she said urgently, tears welling in her eyes. "You have to go." But he didn't move. The footsteps stopped outside the door. Then, without warning, it opened. A tall, thin man in a white coat stepped in, eyes glued to the notepad in his hand. His hair was slicked back neatly, his movements calm, practiced, but when he looked up and saw Julia's open eyes staring back at him, he froze. The notepad slipped slightly from his grasp, his expression twisted shock, then fear, and without a word, he turned and walked briskly out of the room. Julia began to shake uncontrollably, gasping for air. Mark rushed to her side, holding her trembling hands. "Julia, it's okay. He's gone," he said, but she couldn't stop crying. Mark's heart was hammering now. Something was very, very wrong. He looked toward the door where the man had stood seconds ago and knew that whoever that doctor was, he wasn't supposed to be there. Mark's pulse thundered in his ear. He turned toward the hallway, his instinct screaming that something about that man wasn't right. Julia's eyes were still locked on the door, her breathing ragged, her voice trembling as she whispered, "Dad, that's him." Mark leaned closer. "Who, Julia? What do you mean?" She shook her head frantically. "You need to leave, please. You're not safe with him here." Those words struck him like ice. He had spent a month terrified of losing his daughter, and now, only hours after she'd awakened, she was warning him of danger. He gently squeezed her hand. "I'm not leaving you, honey. Not again." And then he heard the sound of footsteps again, echoing through the corridor. He glanced at Julia. Her face went pale. Mark stood and moved toward the door, catching sight of the same tall man in the white coat turning a corner at the end of the hall. His stride was fast, purposeful. Mark didn't think he followed. "Hey!" he called out. "Doctor!" The man didn't stop. Mark quickened his pace, adrenaline surging through him. After years in construction, his body still held strength and anger was fueling every step. When he finally caught up, he grabbed the man's shoulder and spun him around. "Who are you?" Mark demanded. "Why did my daughter react like that when she saw you?" The man blinked rapidly, his face pale, hands trembling slightly. I'm Dr. Arthur Carlson," he said. "I was assigned to your daughter's case. I wasn't expecting her to be awake yet, that's all." His tone was calm, but his eyes betrayed him, darting, restless, searching for a way out. Mark narrowed his eyes. "Really? Because she looked like she'd seen a ghost." The doctor inhaled sharply, exhaled slowly. "Mr. Miller, you're distraught. Please let me return to my work." But something deep inside Mark screamed liar. Years of reading people on job sites, foremen, clients, frauds had sharpened his instincts. And this man was hiding something. He let him go, but the unease twisted in his chest. Mark stormed back to the front desk. "Dr. Arthur Carlson," he told the nurse. "I want to know everything about him now." The nurse frowned, typing quickly. "He's listed as the attending physician for your daughter," she said. "He's been overseeing her care since the day she was admitted." Mark's jaw tightened. "Since the day of the accident?" "Yes, he insisted on being her sole doctor," she added, hesitating. "Which is unusual. Normally, we assign a team." Mark's stomach dropped. "Where is he now?" She scanned her monitor again. "In surgery. Started 10 minutes ago." Mark slammed his hand against the counter. "That's impossible. I was just talking to him not even 2 minutes ago." The nurse's eyes widened. For a heartbeat, neither of them moved. And then realization hit both at once. "Julia?" Mark breathed. He ran. Down the hall, past the wards, shoving through startled staff. By the time he reached her room, 4 nurses had joined him, drawn by his urgency. The door was closed. Mark pushed it open and froze. Inside, Dr. Carlson stood over Julia's bed. One hand was clamped over her mouth, the other holding a syringe poised above her fore. Her eyes were wide with terror. "Get away from her!" Mark roared. The nurses rushed forward, tackling the man to the floor as the syringe clattered to the ground. Julia gasped, tears spilling down her face. Mark was beside her in an instant, pulling her close. "It's over, sweetheart. You're safe." Later, the truth came out in pieces, horrifying, shameful pieces. Dr. Carlson had been the driver who hit Julia's car that night. Fearing she'd recognize him, he'd used his authority to keep her in a medically induced coma, dosing her repeatedly to ensure she never woke up to expose him. But fate had other plans. Her body had started resisting the drugs, her strength outlasting his crimes. When she finally woke, she remembered fragments, his voice, his footsteps, the fear. The syringe in his hand was the final attempt to silence her forever. He failed. Dr. Carlson was arrested and later sentenced to 5 years in prison, not for the accident, but for the cruelty that followed. As for Julia, she recovered faster than anyone expected. Weeks later, she was back home, sunlight streaming through her bedroom window, her father's laughter echoing down the hall. One evening, Mark sat beside her bed, brushing her hair gently as she smiled at him. "I told you not to come," she teased softly. He laughed through tears. "Yeah, well, you should know by now. I don't listen." Outside, the wind rustled through the trees, and for the first time in months, everything was calm.